Hey guys, how are you doing? Today in this video we are going to talk about flue gas desulphurization. Thermal power plants are India's energy backbone, but at what environmental cost? Recently, the Ministry of Environment has exempted a majority of coal-fired plants from installing flue gas desulphurization, also known as FGD units, sparking serious concern over rising SO₂ emissions. In this video, we will break down the science behind FGD, why it matters for clean air, and what this exemption means for India's environment, economy, and your UPSC preparation. Let's begin this discussion with few newspaper headlines which you might have come across. And this was recently in the news. Why government has exempted 78% of coal-based thermal power plants. Okay. So we always start with newspaper, and you know why, you must be knowing, which I learned of late. जो यूपीएससी का रियल सिलेबस है वो करंट अफेयर्स से क्या होता है, ओरिजिनेट होता है, वहां से वो उसका जन्म वहां से वो ओरिजिनेट होता है, मतलब है ना. तो यहां से आपको यू शुड हैव आइडिया दिस काइंड ऑफ दे कैन आस्क यू दिस काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चन, व्हाट इज फ्लू गैस, what is FGD units, so on and so forth. Okay, and they can connect it to your base, right. So this says in 2015 the Environment Ministry notified the first ever emission norms for control SO₂ and other harmful substances from coal based thermal plants. These were required to install something called FGD, which we are going to talk, FGD units by December 2017. Okay, लेकिन फिर भी ऐसा नहीं हुआ. Sulfur cleaning devices in coal plants not necessary. अभी कौन बता रहा है? सेंट्रल साइंटिफिक कमिटी ने ये बताया है 92% of India's 600 coal plants units are yet to install FGDs. Again, another newspaper headlines you might have come across. Popular newspaper से ये headlines उठाई गई हैं. For example, The Hindu or Indian Express primarily. Okay, Environment Ministry must roll back order on this sulphurization. Yeah, desulphurizing coal plants. That is what one study says. Okay, so we begin our discussion with what is flue gas first. You must be okay. देखो जो क्वेश्चन आपके पास आ सकता है वो क्या आ सकता है, what is flue gas, right? So flue gas is, it is if we were to talk about combustion of fossil fuels. Let me give you some background, right? So we have something is called fossil fuels, right? आपके पास जो एनर्जी वाला है पेपर 3 में भी है, and part 1 it is part of your prelims syllabus also, right? Fossil fuels, energy basically, right? So fossils they are dead remains of plants and animals. What is this? This is dead remains of plants and animals. That is what is called fossils, है ना? Plants and animals. Approximately 300 million years ago, the low-lying forest, dense low-lying forest, they were converted into something called coal, right? And ocean marine organism under high pressure and high temperature, in the absence of oxygen, they were converted into petroleum, right? Petroleum and natural gases. Petroleum and natural gas. These are together called basically fossil fuels, right? Koila and petroleum, right? Petroleum and natural gas. I hope you understand, right? This. All right. These are fossil fuels. The idea about this is when you burn them, it is called combustion. Combustion is a basic chemical reaction. What is combustion? Combustion is something when you have a substance and it reacts with oxygen, it gives off heat, light, and other things also, right? This kind of reaction is called combustion reaction. A typical combustion reaction is this. Okay, I can give you one example. Suppose if I were to talk about petroleum byproducts, and one of these product is methane. So if you were to burn methane in the presence of oxygen, what you are going to get? This is simple chemistry, CO2 plus H2O, and you are going to have heat. This is the part, this CH4, this is called methane, and methane is also in news. We are going to talk about this some other day. But methane is greenhouse gas, and apart from it, it is basically fuel, natural fuel. For example, natural gas, gobar gas जिसको कहते हैं, natural gas, right? It is called gobar gas also, So we'll talk about that, right? Natural gas. Again, CNG has also, compressed natural gas has also CH4. This is the idea. But what happens? These fossil fuels, they also, when you burn them, right? They are not pure hydrocarbons actually, right? In terms of chemistry, they are not hydrocarbons, pure hydrocarbon. Just a second, let me make another coffee for this particular. Okay. Okay. So, all right. We are not going to keep this video too long, but you should understand the basic logic. So, fossil fuels, when you burn fossil fuels, they are not only hydrocarbons. If you were to talk about chemistry, right? So, इनके पास क्या क्या है? Hydrocarbons. And not only hydrocarbons, but derivatives of hydrocarbons mean nitrogen, sulfur, containing even oxygen also, because hydrocarbons has to do with hydrogen and carbon, compounds containing carbon and hydrogen. But if you were to talk about their derivatives, they are nitrogen, sulfur and oxygen like substances, right? Now, what happens when when this fuel undergoes combustion, है ना? जब इसको जलाओगे तो क्या होगा? You are not only going to get CO2, but you are also going to get NOx, oxides of nitrogen, right? Oxides of nitrogen. This is primarily very important for your basic understanding, For example, nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, है ना, dinitrogen oxide. Dinitrogen oxide is also called laughing gas, potent greenhouse gas. You should remember, right? These are the oxides of nitrogen. You might also get, NO3, nitrate. All right. And not only that, you also get sulphur dioxide, right? And very small particles. And this make up something is called flue gas. इसी को flue gas बोलते हैं. It is a mixture of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, sulfur, and these small particulate matter is called PM, right? And you might have come across this word PM 2.5, PM10. PM 2.5 means simply those particles, they are such a small particle, their diameter is less than 2.5 micrometer, right? So 2.5 mean 2.5 micrometer से जिनका क्या हो, छोटा हो diameter, right? These particles are very small. They easily, they get down through our nose to our lungs, deep down, and they become part of our circulation, right? And they can cause, so many problems, including lungs problem, lung cancer, cardiovascular disease, and so on and so forth. So I hope you have understood what is flue gas. Essentially, it is the byproduct of combustion of fossil fuels. Why byproduct? Because we get energy from, or heat energy from, combusting fossil fuels. What it consists of? Carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, and particulate matter in particular. I hope you have understood this. So now let's discuss about FGD. What are FGD units? They are specifically targeted the SO2 emission in flue gas, right? So let me tell you, okay, we are going to talk about, this now. These units are flue gas desulphurisation units, if I am going to talk about it. So we have, just don't worry, I have, okay, so let me select this one, है ना? तो जो मैंने आपको बताया, this is flue gas and it is the byproduct of, when we combust these fossil fuels. Now let's talk about this flue gas desulphurisation, है ना? Desulphurisation मतलब removing actually. So essentially these units, what they are doing, they are targeting SO2, they are targeting sulfur dioxide pollution. Sulfur dioxide is very harmful pollution because it is, सबसे पहले तो ये क्या है, acidic है. Why? Once this sulfur dioxide is in atmosphere and it reacts with any sort of precipitation like rainfall, sleet, चाहे वो बर्फ पड़ रही हो, तो what it is going to make? H2SO4, and it makes rain acidic, है ना? इसके कारण rain क्या हो जाती है? Acidic हो जाती है. Okay? तो अभी इसके बारे में बात करते हैं. तो these units, FGD units, they specifically target what? SO2 emission, right? SO2 को हम क्या करेंगे सरल भाषा में, easy language में, these units have basic principle, let me tell you. The principle in these units is used something called neutralization, है ना? Basic chemistry. Again, देखो टॉपिक हमको हमेशा करंट अफेयर्स बताएगा कि कौन से ऐसे पार्ट्स हैं, those can be very well asked in your examination, right? So this is called neutralization, है ना? Neutralization की जो basic chemistry है वो क्या कहती है? What it says, when acid reacts with bases, acids are those compounds which in aqueous solution they give hydrogen plus ion, right? H plus ion. When they react with bases are those compounds which gives OH ion, right? They will produce something is called salt, okay, and water, and and at the same time they are going to give off some kind of heat, some sort of heat, okay, and therefore these reactions from general science, they are called exothermic. Exothermic means they give off heat, right? What they give off heat, right? यहाँ से heat भी निकलती है, तो बस यही करेंगे हम. This is what we are going to do. We have this sulfur dioxide which is acidic. So what we are going to do, we are going to treat it with some sort of alkali, है ना? Alkali are basically aqueous base, those which are dissolved in water. So we are going to treat, I hope आपको समझ में आ गया होगा, we are going to treat this sulfur dioxide with some sort of or some kind of alkaline substrate, some kind of alkaline substance. Alkaline, है ना? Alkaline mean aqueous base which are soluble in water, alkaline solution. Simple. This is the chemistry, basic chemistry behind it. Okay, this is what is the chemistry behind these FGD units. And then there are three types of FGD units. One is called dry sorbent injection, wet limestone treatment, and using seawater. Okay, right? Okay, so let me tell you, there are three, basically, if we were to talk about, there are three common types, right? So three common types. So let me give you three common types, 1, 2, and this third one. Okay, three common types. Okay, so there are three common types of these FGD units. First one is called dry sorbent injection, right? This is called dry sorbent, and if it is clear to you, dry sorbent injection. Okay, थोड़ा सा basic idea हो तो अच्छा है. Sorbent injection, because we should be tightly focused to our exam, right? So we don't need to know everything, but yes, एक basic idea हो तो अच्छी बात है. Dry sorbent injection, this is one. Okay, limestone is what? Basic in nature, so we can treat with wet limestone. So another one could be wet limestone treatment. Wet limestone is CaCO3. okay, limestone, जिसको marble भी कहते हैं ना, geography में पढ़ा होगा और science के अलावा. And third one is basically seawater, है ना? Seawater. So let me write it. Seawater treatment. Seawater treatment. है ना? These units have seawater treatments. Okay. So dry sorbent injection, what we do in this method, actually powdered sorbent like limestone to flue gas. Okay. And इसमें क्या करते हैं, ध्यान से समझने की कोशिश करना. एक तो वेट वाला है और एक क्या है, पाउडर, मतलब ड्राई वाला मेथड है ना. ड्राई सॉर्बेंट लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल SO₂ is basically, it is what it is done, it is basically added to sulfur dioxide and resultant compound can be removed using electrostatic precipitator. Okay, so dry का मतलब है पाउडर बेसिकली, है ना. एक लाइन में अगर आप मुझसे पूछोगे PO, okay, let's correct the spelling, powdery alkali, है ना, something like that. So powdery alkali में जैसे dry limestone, generally what they are using, dry limestone, and what it does, this dry limestone, it reacts with sulfur dioxide and you get some kind of compound that is removed through the use of electrostatic, है ना. So electrostatic precipitator, is used to remove, those impurities, right? Impurity, just remember this. Another is wet limestone treatment. We are using limestone to remove SO₂, right? तो पाउडर की जगह हम क्या यूज करते हैं, limestone slurry, है ना. Wet limestone is basically, right? So we are going to use slurry of limestone, slurry of limestone. Again, what is limestone? Calcium carbonate. Just remember, chemically it is what? Calcium carbonate, right? And this is very important, because what you are going to get when you pass sulfur dioxide through this slurry, it results into something called gypsum, which is a stable compound and it has wide applications, So byproduct, what you are going to get, gypsum, है ना. ये सब पढ़ा होगा आपने, basic geography में भी पढ़ा होगा gypsum, and gypsum has industrial use, we are going to talk about it some other day. industrial application, it has agricultural applications, okay, agricultural applications, है ना. तो ये ध्यान रखना, this is what we are going to get, है ना. Okay, तो CaSO4 into twice H2O, if I am correct, CaSO4 into twice H2O, this is right. You also get POP, plaster of Paris, you know, which is CaSO4 into half H2O. This is what you get when you know, heat this gypsum. Okay, this is what is the use. Okay, that is what is used basically, right? Those you know, thermal power plants which are near the coastal areas, what we can use seawater also, you know, to remove to remove SO2, right? तो SO2 को रिमूव करने के लिए कहां पर यूज करते हैं? सी वाटर को, because it has some alkaline properties. Basically it will be used in, you know, those coastal areas, right, which thermal power plants are near coastal areas. But just I wanted to focus on this part, you know, wet limestone part. The slurry of this limestone is very useful, you know, it is going to have some benefits also, because we get compounds which have wide applications, right? So ये win-win situation होगी basically, right? Okay, I hope you have got the basic idea of FGD units and basic science of neutralization. So let me tell you quickly why this sulfur dioxide is bad. First of all, this sulfur dioxide has global warming potential also, right? It has global warming potential also, right? It has global warming potential also. What it does actually, this is, you know, one thing, you know. Another thing is it is SO2 is pollution. SO2 is polluting, you know, polluting gas, right? So it can cause respiratory, cardiovascular problems, you know, cardiovascular problems, right? Cardiovascular problems. By the way, these you know, heart, lungs are integrated systems, so you know, we can say they easily cause respiratory, yeah, na? Respiratory problems, right? Respiratory problems, है ना. तो यहां से क्या हो सकता है? Respiratory problems हो सकती है, सांस लेने में दिक्कत हो सकती है. For example, with, you know, other compounds, you know, it mixes with other compounds and they can form particulate matter. So particulate matters are formed, you know, particulate matter. For example, PM2.5, PM10 can be formed with sulfur dioxide. You know, if you know about the lichen are basically, they are indicator species, right? Lichens are symbiont of alga and bacteria, and lichens, they don't grow in SO2 environment. So if there is sulfur dioxide and you know, अगर वहां पर lichen होते होंगे तो lichen wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't be there now, you know, once SO2 is there, right? So उसके अलावा मैंने आपको बताया था एक मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट एसिड रेन, है ना, एसिड रेन. So acid rain is there. Acid rain is another part. Okay, this is why this sulfur dioxide is, you know, dangerous, right? It is dangerous. Now let's talk about why government has, what was there? The majority of coal-fired plants are exempted. Why? You know, what was the reason these plants were exempted? First of all, let me tell you something. According to, you know, Central Electricity Authority, it cost, Central Electricity Authority ने एक study किया and it cost around 1.2 crores per megawatt to install. You know, it is a costly affair, very expensive. It is costly affair. सीधा cost का चक्कर है सबसे पहले इसमें, है ना, costly affair, very expensive. So according to Central Electricity Authority, you know, if I want to, according to this authority, according to Central Electricity Authority, roughly, or they have just calculated, it cost around 1.2 crores. This cost is around 1.2 crores per megawatt, right? तो ये समझने की कोशिश करना, यानी कि अगर you know, there was one study, or mota roughly speaking, you know, 1.2 crore megawatts roughly. Okay, so if 97,000 megawatt, you know, this much power is to be installed, to be added, it means it is going to cost around 97,000 crore, you know. So it is going to be 97,000 plus crore, because 0.2 is also there, you know, with every megawatt. but at least itne crores rupees will be required, you know, this expense is required, you know, if this much is in it, if it is added, अगर इतनी एनर्जी को और ऐड करना है तो वी आर गोइंग टू हैव दिस मच, यू नो, दिस इज कॉस्टली अफेयर फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल. ओके, दैट इज वन सीरियस, you know, issue about, you know, this economic issue about it, right? All right, so ऐसा स्टडी में देखा गया, it was found in the studies that those plants, you know, the sulfur dioxide जो pollution था, there was no significant, you know, study, you know, this is one study says, this is study says there was no significant increase in pollution level, that is one study, you know, it was found that, right? Another study says average ground level SO2 measurement is, you know, average ground level SO2 measurement have been below to the permissible level, right? Have been below to permissible level. Okay, that is another part of the story, right? So it is sort of, you know, there is no urgency, for example, right? So it is, you know, right, not urgency, okay, but जो measure इसका है, measure जो इसका है costly affair, right? high installation, you know, high installation cost also. Not only that, but installation cost is very high, right? Okay, उसके अलावा potential rise in electricity bill that is going to, you know, burden might shift to, you know, consumers. So this burden shifts to consumer. Okay, consumer में कैसे होगा? Rise in electricity bill. Okay, so you should be now for UPSC examination, you should try to, you know, analyze things, you know, क्या क्या हो सकता है, क्या क्या नहीं हो सकता, right? Okay, so there are so many things. Okay, दूसरी कमिटी ने बोला इंडियन कोल है जो, you know, another committee says, this study says, you know, Indian coal is low in sulfur naturally, right? So that is one another you know, study, you know, expert appraisal committee which was found there, right? Okay, तो उसका कोल क्या है, उसमें सल्फर की मात्रा क्या कम है, राइट? तो ऐसा देखा गया कि बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंस नहीं था जहां पर FGD यूनिट्स लगी हैं और जहां पर FGD यूनिट्स नहीं लगी है. ओके, सो दिस इज व्हाई, you know, ministry has exempted, you know, majority of those coal fired plants from, you know, installing FGD units. Okay, so you should, you know, try to find out this news again. Not a single video is enough, you know, these things are evolving over a period of time. In a sense, you know, you will get another committee reports, you will get another study, so you should keep, you know, following all these things. Okay, so we wind up this video with this thing. So I am going to give you one questions to write. Discuss the cost benefit analysis of installing flue gas desulphurisation units in coal based thermal power plants in India. Okay, और उसके बारे में अगर मैं आपको बताऊं तो जो थर्मल पावर प्लांट्स हैं उनकी कैटेगरीज हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, कैटेगरी ए इज, you know, within 10 kilometers of national capital regions or cities with population over 1 million. तो कैटेगरी बी में क्या है? TPPs, you know, thermal power plants within 10 kilometer radius of critically polluted areas, non-attainment cities, right? और उसके अलावा एक और है all other TPPs, you know. So there are 3 categories of thermal power plants, so you should understand all of these things, right? So what you have to write, examine the trade-offs between financial investment and long-term environmental and health benefits. Okay, so we are going to wind up this video with this topic. Thank you so very much. If you really like this video, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, share and comment. See you guys until next time. Thank you so very much.